And it is Twister Talk. I'm Gary.
And I'm Brandon.
And we are back on the air. And Brandon, the first big storm of the season in the Atlantic is finally taking shape. And we'll talk about that in just a minute, give you the rundown. But thankfully, it's been a slow year for some of the tropical issues that we had last year. So nice to take a break.
Yeah, you know, I seem to remember there was some concern that we might have not only a more active season than usual, but that we might see an earlier start to it. But thus far, things have been a little bit on the quiet side,
which is nice. Now they're still saying it will still be a pretty active season going into September. We'll see if that comes to pass or not. But right now, what began as a quiet tropical depression a couple of days ago out in the Atlantic has now become Hurricane Erin. It is out in the middle of nowhere right now, which is a good thing. But Brandon's going to give us a rundown on the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. So go ahead, Brandon. It's all yours.
Is there really ever any such thing as a quiet little tropical depression?
Well, you know, it was behaving itself till it got in favorable waters, and just went loose.
Yeah,
you got it.
All right, so we have the latest bulletin here on Hurricane Erin from the National Weather Service Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida. This is as of 2 p.m. Atlantic time, Friday, August 15th. Okay, so this storm is moving west-northwestward. It is expected that it's going to pass near or north of the Leeward Islands on Saturday. Our latest summary as of 2 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. The storm center was located 18.6 degrees north by 56.8 degrees west. Now, this places it about 415 miles east of the northern Leeward Islands. The current maximum sustained winds are at 75 miles per hour. Present movement is to the west-northwest or heading to 290 degrees at 17 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure was recorded at 29.33 inches. So this motion is expected to continue into the weekend. Now, on the forecast track, the center of Erin is likely to move near or just to the north of the northern Leeward Islands over the weekend. So reports from an Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicate that the maximum sustained winds are, in fact, near 75 miles per hour, with higher gusts recorded, and steady to rapid strengthening is expected during the next 2 to 3 days, with Erin forecast to become a major hurricane during the weekend. At last recording, hurricane force winds extended outward up to 25 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds extended outward up to 115 miles, mainly to the north of the center of the storm. Of course, as we pointed out, the minimum central pressure is at 29.33 inches. So this is currently expected to strengthen, and Gary, this thing looks like it may be a Category 3 by the time the weekend is over here.
That's what they're talking about, Brandon. Taking a look at the tracking forecast map provided by the National Hurricane Center, although there have been some uncertainties introduced in the last couple of hours on where the dry air is entraining into the core, the improved low-level structure indicates potential rapid strengthening, and based on this, the 36 to 48-hour forecast of new intensity shows a faster development rate. After probably into Monday next week, hurricane is forecast to encounter more northerly and northwesterly vertical wind shear that could slow development. However, the global and regional hurricane models are in good agreement that Erin will become a powerful and increasingly large hurricane over the southwestern Atlantic over the weekend and into next week. Bay saying it would not be surprising if Erin became stronger than currently forecast. Right now, it's forecast to become a Category 3. It could flirt with Category 4 in the next week. We'll have to wait and see. There's always a little bit of uncertainty on these things, but the one thing they are certain of, it is going to get stronger and become a dangerous storm. Thankfully, still, it's going to be in the middle of the Atlantic. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So that's where we're at with that. Now, heavy rainfall tonight through Sunday across the northern Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico may lead to isolated and locally considerable flash flooding, along with landslides or mudslides. Now, tropical storm conditions are possible for portions of the northern Leeward Islands, where tropical storm watches are in effect beginning on Saturday as the core of Erin passes north of those islands. Gusts to tropical storm force are possible in rain bands over portions of the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico later in the weekend. While the threat, Brandon, of direct impacts in the Bahamas along the east coast of the U.S. appears to be gradually decreasing, there will be significant risk for dangerous surf and rip currents along the western Atlantic beaches next week. That is something that we don't want to understate. There will be a major issue with rip currents and rip tides along the coast, especially the Carolinas, the beaches and everything. That's going to be an issue in early next week. The effect of the storm, the wind fields and everything go way beyond the rain and just the core of the storm. That rip currents and dangerous tide situations are going to erupt on the western, on the east coast here, and it's going to be something to keep an eye on. And for God's sake, folks, when your local forecast says you don't go in the water, don't go in the water. We've already had that a few times this year where people have gone out and got caught, and guess what? Rip currents and drowned. So
yeah, that's something that is worth pointing out. Even if the main body of the storm itself doesn't necessarily come anywhere near you, there are storm-caused effects that can reach out beyond, simply beyond the circumference of the storm boundary itself. You can spot them if you know what to look for,
right.
But if you're not paying attention and you wander into one, they can pull you far away from shore very quickly.
Right, and usually the result, sadly, is catastrophic for you as far as the life lost and anything else. So if they tell you don't go in the water, don't go in the water. So that's what's going on now. Again, for the most part, this is going to basically remain over the Atlantic Ocean, not within any landfall of anywhere. After Wednesday, they're not sure about the forecast track. That may change. They're thinking, Brandon, and this is just something as an addendum, it may turn more to the northeast as we get into Thursday and Friday of next week, heading more toward the open cold waters of the northern Atlantic, which will cause it to dissipate and pretty much fall apart. But for right now, it's forecast to become a Cat 3 hurricane sometime Saturday night into Sunday, with winds at least 125 miles an hour. Some strengthening over that into maybe even Category 4 territory is outside the envelope, but it is possible that could be an issue also. So we'll have to wait and see. It will affect. It's interesting because it may not hit land directly, but there will, like we talked about, there will be effects in parts of the Atlantic coast and even parts of Europe next week as this storm moves into those areas. So
yeah, and just taking a look at the forecast map here, these. We've touched on this before. These forecast cones spread out the farther away you get from the current point in time, because there is no way to predict exactly where or how these storms are going to end up. But looking at the forecast track right now, this thing is not really going to be in danger of hitting any major land masses, which is certainly going to be nice for anyone living in those areas. It may graze. It may graze the leewards. It may or may not graze the edge of Bermuda. But yeah, for the most part, right now, this thing is forecast to stay well out into the ocean, away from any major land interests.
So that's what we have going on with Hurricane Erin. And real quickly, there is a tropical wave that's moved onshore near Brownsville, Texas. Not expecting any development at all, but it is tropical in nature and will produce flooding rains in parts of southwest Texas and northern Mexico over the next 24 to 48 hours as it dissipates. So that's what's going on there. I'll give you that quick update again. Maximum sustained winds of Erin now 75 miles an hour at 18.6 degrees north latitude, 58.6 degrees west longitude. That's about 451 miles east of the northern Leeward Islands. Again, 75 mile an hour sustained winds. Central pressure is 29.33 inches. It will strengthen overnight and into the weekend as a Category 3 hurricane, probably by sometime Sunday. So we'll have to keep an eye on everything and see what happens. But Brandon, this may symbol that we are heading into a more busy season. It may not. We just have to wait and see.
Right now it's too early to tell how many more of these we'll get. This one does not look like it's going to pose any major threat to any major land interests or population centers. But we're going to have to see if we get any more storms, and if so, where they end up and what kind of effect they might have.
So we will give you some updates as we move into the weekend. We'll give you updates every day and let you know what's happening hurricane-wise out there with Erin and anything else that may show up in the tropics over the weekend. One never knows. We've had enough hot summer and heavy rains and flooding rains across so many parts of the country. Just watching a hurricane out in the middle of the Atlantic might be a nice diversion. Let's leave it at that. So you never know, right? Hey. We just reported
the things we can do to entertain ourselves sometimes, right?
All right. For Twisted Talk, I'm Gary.
And I'm Brandon.
And we'll see you next time.